In Oregon spring game over the weekend, Bo Nix was the most game-ready quarterback for the fall as of now. Could that change? Probably not. We'll discuss. Here we go.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, D1 play-by-play broadcaster and lifelong Oregon Ducks fan. Thanks for making this your first listen or your first view if you're watching on YouTube every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks every single weekday. Like, comment, subscribe wherever you are listening to and or watching the show. Always appreciate that. Nice comments. Love seeing those. And I see them from many of you out there, and I very much appreciate that. I might not get a lot of them after today's episode because I don't think these are going to be very popular takes. Now, maybe they will be. Maybe you saw the same things that I saw in Oregon spring game from the quarterback position. But right off the top, we have to point it out, don't we? Unless I was missing something, unless I was watching a different game, Bo Nix is the most game-ready quarterback that Oregon has. I know a lot of Oregon fans don't want to hear that. They maybe didn't want to see that over the weekend. Maybe they didn't see that because they didn't want to hear that. But that's the reality of the situation. So let's talk about the quarterbacks today. We'll get to some other standouts later in the show, but the quarterback position was something we were looking at going into the spring game, and all three guys, I think, got ample opportunities. All three did a lot of really good things, also had some less than spectacular moments. Let's start with Bo Nix right off the top. His final stat line, 8 of 15, not great, 230 yards, pretty great. I don't think we should expect to see a lot of games where Bo Nix has 8 completions for 230 yards. He threw 3 touchdowns, 2 to Dante Thornton, both of which were long balls, and then 1 to Seven McGee on that opening drive after the big play to our newest converted wide receiver, who I thought looked very, very good. And then he had the interception as well. Compared to Ty Thompson, who was 12 of 27, not great, 168 yards, solid on 12 completions. Not great, but, solid. 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. Jay Butterfield, 16 of 26, 213 yards. Pretty solid stat line there for Butters. 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Now, I know there are a bunch of fans out there who want to see Ty Thompson, regardless, and you never wanted to see Bo Nix, and there's just no reason to bring him in, and we need to develop a quarterback, and all this sort of stuff. I understand that frustration. I think that when you look at Oregon's quarterback room right now, and what we saw, which was an extension at least of what I think the coaches have seen in spring football this year. Now, we've seen Jay Butterfield take snaps with the ones and Bo Nix and Ty Thompson, and they don't have a clear depth chart right now, or at least officially they don't, because my inclination now is even stronger than it was going into the spring game, which is that right now as spring football winds down for Oregon, Bo Nix is the clear leader in the clubhouse to be the starting quarterback. Are game reps a part of that? Yes, they are a part of that. But if Ty Thompson were game ready, then he would have the opportunity to showcase that. And I think he's had that chance. And then we saw him in the spring game. Did he look game ready to you? He made some nice completions. I'm not taking away from that. The throw to Chris Hudson down, on the deep crosser was a beautiful ball. He had a nice dig route to Troy Franklin as well. That was a beautiful ball. But he also missed a couple of throws. The 2 interceptions were both really, really bad. So was Bo Nix's interception, by the way. But Ty's were still looking like a guy who is still learning to play the position, to make the reads and process information and feel totally comfortable in the pocket. And would I like for him to be a little further along in his development right now based on what I saw on Saturday? Yes. Those were not throws I would like a quarterback who's in his, entering his second full season on campus to still be making. But is it understandable that he's still at that point in his development? Absolutely, because everybody learns the position at a different speed. And a lot of you, I'm sure, are thinking right now, Spencer, Bo Nix is only more refined because he's actually gotten to play in college football games, and he's, that's why he's got the more game ready titles you gave him earlier. Like that's why. That's partially true. It's also on Ty Thompson a little bit to look closer to Bo Nix than he did over the weekend. Like I thought there was not like a huge Grand Canyon chasm sized gap between the two. But when I watched Bo and when I watched Ty and I watched Jay Butterfield as well, based on what I saw, Bo Nix is the most game ready quarterback that Oregon has. And so I thought he'd be the starter before the game. I fully expect that to be the case now that I've seen them all play in a game like situation. And in terms of Ty Thompson's development, I'm not saying it can't click for him. I'm hoping that it does because we see the size and the arm strength and the touch he showed on the deep ball. We see all of that, but it's the stuff that we don't see that he is still clearly working on. I mean, that interception he threw to Keith Brown, that was Anthony Brown level stuff, right? I mean, the defender is sitting there. It was never open. It shouldn't have been thrown. And Bo Nix's interception was bad as well. But when you look at the totality of the film that they put together in that spring game, Bo looked much more refined and much closer to what you'd consider a Power 5 starting quarterback than Ty Thompson did, because Ty missed a couple of open guys, and like the interception that was tipped and then Triquez Bridges took back to the house. That's a throw you got to be able to make. I mean, Spencer Webb is wide open there. He's done a good job to beat his guy by a step and a half on that route, and he puts it way, way behind him. And Butterfield's interception was also thrown behind Isaiah Crocker, but it was a little bit further down the field. Ty Thompson, that should be an easy pitch and catch. And it's not that, again, it's not that he can't become the sort of quarterback we've all been hoping that he one day becomes for the Ducks, but it's that he just isn't there. If you're missing a throw like that, I don't think it's a mechanical issue or a physical tools issue or he needs to get in the weight room or anything. I think it's just an overall comfort level and a presence in the pocket. And that's another place where I think Bo has a distinct advantage. And Ty, yes, he will eventually need game reps to grow, but before guys step onto the field of the quarterback position, they look the part in practice and they are ready. I'll make a point about that after I tell you about Athletic Greens. What is Athletic Greens? A great way to invest in your gut health and give you more energy with a better immune system. Just one scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. It's lifestyle friendly, costs less than $3 a day, and has over 7,000 five-star reviews. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/college. That is athleticgreens.com/college to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Go check out Athletic Greens today. The point I'm making here about Ty Thompson is, yes, there have to be game reps for him to reach his full potential, right? And whenever he starts playing quarterback for the Ducks regularly, if Bo Nix, God forbid, gets hurt this year, then Ty Thompson would get the chance to do that. But what he showed in limited action last year is he doesn't read the field particularly well as a young quarterback adjusting from high school to college. It's a big leap. And what he showed me in the spring game, and I think all of you, whether you wanted to see it or not, he's still not quite there in terms of getting through his progressions comfortably and making throws. Has he gotten better? Yes, I think so. But he still has room to go. So if you're this new coaching staff with a roster that has plenty of talent, with a good offensive line, a good linebacking core, and yes, some questions here and there, but overall a team that can compete for a Pac-12 North title, I think it's perfectly logical to roll out Bo Nix as the starting quarterback because he is the most game ready. And yes, Ty is going to need those game reps, but you have to show that you can do it in practice first, right? Remember when Mariota was named the starter? And yes, he is an all-time player. I'm not disputing that, right? He's the best player in program history. When he took the field, who was he replacing? A 2-year starter who had won 12 games in back-to-back seasons. Pretty darn good football player in Darren Thomas. But Mariota, after going through a year of practice, was ready to do it on the field. And whether it was the spring game or whether it was the first game he played, you knew he was ready. If you don't like that comparison, because Mariota's an outlier as the only Heisman Trophy winner in school history, let's go to Justin Herbert, who, when he took the field, I remember that Cal game down in Berkeley when Oregon's defense was atrocious during that abysmal 4-8 season. Justin Herbert on the field as a true freshman made some mistakes, but he looked more polished executing the offense, making the reads, and looking comfortable in the pocket to make throws and use his big arm than Ty Thompson does right now. To me, that's not even close. True freshman Justin Herbert versus where Ty Thompson is now, Herbert was further along, and Herbert still had room to grow, and he did continue to grow. But you have to be at a certain level to be game ready. And if this staff ultimately does come to the determination that Ty Thompson isn't there yet, and they want to go with Bo Nix this year, I understand that, because based on what we have seen, the information we've been given so far, Bo Nix is the best quarterback on this roster. Doesn't mean he has the highest ceiling, because we don't know the sort of player Ty Thompson can become yet, but I think you can put him in a bad situation if you play him too early before he's ready, because to me, he doesn't quite look ready to be Oregon's starting quarterback, and we know that Bo Nix is capable of winning college football games in a Power 5 conference. He did so in the SEC quite a bit. This might make me an unpopular guy amongst Oregon fans today, but to me, that was the biggest takeaway from the signal callers. Bo Nix is head and shoulders above the other guys, right? I don't think it's a Grand Canyon-sized chasm, as I said before, but I do think that the difference is substantial enough to where, unless some major developments come from Ty Thompson or Jay Butterfield, who, again, I thought looked solid and perfectly capable, and if something wildly crazy and horrible happened where Bo Nix and Ty Thompson were unavailable, I wouldn't feel horrible about throwing Jay Butterfield out there. I think he'd be able to execute the offense in a solid way. But again, does he look as refined as Bo Nix or as game ready? I think the answer is no. And with game one being against Georgia, I think that if they come to that decision and whenever that announcement gets made, I won't be surprised by it. I know a lot of Duck fans will be upset, but I don't think it's an illogical conclusion to come to at this point in time. And by the way, Bo Nix was really in that spring game kind of what we were promised when he transferred to Oregon from Auburn. He made some really great plays and throws, right? The blown coverage he exploited to Seven McGee. He looped a beautiful ball to Dante Thornton, a couple to Dante Thornton, had some other nice throws. And then he had a ball that he just never should have thrown. That interception, no, he should not have thrown that football. There's no doubt about that, and that's just what we should come to expect with him. And speaking of the spring game, by the way, I want to shout out the Autzen faithful, because over 42,000 Duck fans came to Autzen Stadium on a weekend where Oregon was making it a big recruiting pitch, and the football game in particular, there were some big names there, Jaden Wayne among them, and 42,000, that's an awesome number for a spring game. And I think that when you look at it in the context of recruiting, it was an awesome sight to see, because when schools bring in all these high-level recruits and they're trying to pitch them on like, oh, you should come here and here's why, all this is that, there are going to be some crossovers, but you want to have a way that your school can stand out. And getting to be in a stadium that full for a spring game, to do shout in between the third and fourth quarter, you don't think recruits are going to remember that as a distinct experience that's unique to Oregon? I thought that was really, really great. And Dan Lanning also talking in his post-game presser about seeing shout and Autzen. It's just fantastic stuff. The players were getting into it. Bennett Williams did a revival with a couple linemen on the sideline. Not sure how many of you saw that, but I was just it was so much fun. So much fun to watch. And I can't wait for the fans to be back in Autzen again for the season this fall, because there's nothing like it. There's nothing in the world like college football. It is uniquely American, and it is uniquely awesome. Other notable performances from Oregon spring game. Jahlil Florence. He looked like he belonged, and I've talked about him a good amount here on the pod, understandably so. And anytime you talk about a highly rated recruit, no matter the position, no matter how many stars, even unless it's a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau, who is just going to be there and make an impact immediately because he was so physically gifted and his body was so mature at such a young age. There's always a question about how is he going to make the adjustment from high school to college? Because it's different. In high school, you can have guys on the field who are not going to be able to play even Division III football anywhere, depending on what league you're in and what state you're in. But Jahlil Florence got burned for the touchdown early by Dante Thornton, but was able to respond, and he had quite the interception off of Jay Butterfield, who tried to hit Isaiah Crocker on the deep end over the middle. And man, that was a heck of a hustle play from Jahlil Florence, to get back into it after it was kind of beat, not badly, it was kind of a tough throw for Butters to have to make. One, I'm sure he feels he should have been able to put on the money, but it was ever so slightly behind, and Florence just got in there and physically ripped it away. I mean, it was a heck of a play from our newest freshman corner, and as a true freshman, he looked like he belonged. And so I thought that from a physical standpoint, that was an encouraging thing to see. And I'm glad that he shows that sort of potential because maybe he'll become a guy who, plays some snaps here and there, maybe in a nickel or a dime package or, filling in for an injury. He's been an early enrollee, so he'll have an advantage on guys like Jahlil Tucker, his teammate from high school, who's not on campus yet. There was a lot of things like that, I think, with Jahlil Florence. Another DB who I've mentioned just from time to time here on the show, JJ Greenfield, had a nice interception off of Bo Nix and made a couple other plays in coverage as well. He was away from the team last year after showing some nice moments his freshman year in 2020, but now he's back and he had that Bo Nix interception. Again, ball should not have been thrown, but I think that, is still good on Greenfield for making the read, making the play, and had a nice run back as well. There were a couple other standouts and also some guys and units that did struggle a little bit. Important to address both sides of the coin as we break down the spring game. But first, it's important that I tell you about Bet Online, your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of Major League Baseball. Go Mariners. Bet Online is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet Online, where the game starts. The rest of the standouts in the Oregon spring game, I think I would be remiss if I went up and down this list and talk about individuals who played well, who showed some really good things, earned playing time, solidified the roles, all that good stuff, if I didn't mention Chase Cota. I mean, he looked really good. And he was a guy who last year was pretty underutilized at UCLA just by nature of who else was in the receiving room with him. DTR trusted Kyle Phillips and Greg Dulcich more. They're both off to the NFL. Cota, instead of coming back to potentially be the number one wide receiver, they've got Jake Bobo, the Duke transfer, as well, who's vying for that position now. But he could have been a top option there. Instead, he comes home to the Ducks, which I think Oregon fans felt was long overdue. And I think had Willie Taggart not left after one season, he might have been a Duck from the jump. But anyway, he's here now. He made some tough catches. He looked really good. I thought he looked a little bit bigger and faster than I remember seeing him as when he was at UCLA. And he can work sideline to sideline as a receiver. He can line up in the slot, but you can put him outside. He works the middle of the field really well. We saw that deep sideline ball from Jay Butterfield, which was a great throw from Butters, by the way. It got called back because of a holding, but he was blanketed in coverage, and he made a one-on-one catch down the sideline that was really, really tough to make. I think he could become a security blanket for whoever Oregon has behind center this year, which, again, probably going to be Bo Nix. But I think that he's a really nice, reliable option. And I've said this before. I'll say it again. I like having a veteran like that in a really young, up-and-coming wide receiving core for guys like Troy Franklin and Dante Thornton and Chris Hudson and Seven McGee, who's learning the wide receiver position. A guy who's played 4 years of college football and can make plays like what we saw over the weekend. I think that's a really good guy to have in the room, and good to see a wide receiver wearing number 23 for the Ducks once again. Defensively, Jackson LaDuke, he was wearing number 42 on Saturday. I did give you the full numbers rundown on I think it was Friday. Well, all throughout the week as I was doing the position previews, but linebackers and DBs I think were last, and they were on Friday's episode. So if you were watching, going, boy, who's number 42? He's making a lot of plays. Guys who cover Oregon spring practice, they have been very high on Jackson LaDuke for a while, and I tell you what, he looked fast, and he executed his blitzes very well. And the way that Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy have schemed up to bring pressure, I thought was also an interesting point to look at. The way that linebackers would wrap around on a little bit of a delayed blitz to fill a gap, or the way that you hear the term simulated pressures a lot, because they do that a lot defensively. And by the way, if you want to hear Dan Lanning get you excited about defense, just search the video of him talking about how they stopped Alabama's mesh concept from a type formation out of shotgun. It's pretty awesome stuff. That's for like the hardcore football junkies out there. And if you haven't figured this out by now, that is 100% me. So I thought LaDuke made some really nice plays, and at a position where Oregon had a lot of injuries a season ago, you never know. And having a guy like that who runs around all the field, just flying sideline to sideline and wreaking havoc in the backfield, I thought he did some nice things. There were some players and units that I think will be better than what we saw on Saturday, and number one was the tight end unit, which I've hyped up a pretty good amount here on the pod, and I will stand by that support for our pass catchers / blockers, because they are, I think, a really deep and talented group. Terrence Ferguson, Spencer Webb, Maliki Matavau, Patrick Herbert when he gets back from injury. But those top three guys, Ferguson, Webb, and Matavau, I think are really, really solid, but they were not at their best in this game. And both from a blocking standpoint, they missed a couple of assignments, or just lost some one-on-ones on blitz packages that came at them. But they also had a couple drops. Matavau had one. Ferguson had one. It was weird because they're usually very sure-handed. That's what we saw from them last year. And so that definitely needs to be cleaned up, because those are real weapons in the offense. And I was glad to see them continually involved in the offensive approach, and I hope that continues to be the case. As the receivers are great. I think there's some depth and talent there, but you can't forget about the big fellas, because they can be real weapons in the offense. They can just be matchup nightmares, and I think they're all capable of that. Matavau leans a little bit more as a blocker than a pass catcher, but he's certainly capable of receiving balls. He caught a touchdown against Ohio State last year, so he's a capable receiver. But I think Webb and Ferguson are both capable. Ferguson especially of being explosive players at the second level from the tight end position. Another guy who struggled, Camden Lewis. He had a little bit of a rough day. I'm not taking too much out of struggling in the spring game, but they were kind of perfect conditions. He left a 53-yard field goal short, which is very long, but he hit a 49-yarder in a game last year. And if you're hitting the weight room and also practicing the way that you should, and much has been made, rightfully so, about Joe Lorig coming over from Penn State to be the special teams coordinator, because he's had some really good units, and that's been a big-time weakness for Oregon the last couple of years, and this staff has been stressing special teams a lot more than the Mario Cristobal administration did. I was a little disappointed that he left the 53-yarder short, because I think that's, if he's progressing year to year, that's a kick that he should be able to make, at least from a distance standpoint. And I don't think Oregon has really ever had a guy who's capable of making a 50-plus yard field goal, but Camden showed last year he's capable of getting to that sort of range, but maybe just needs another full offseason this summer of workouts, and maybe eating a cheeseburger or two for just a little bit of extra weight to get into the ball. And he did look much better on kickoffs. He definitely looked much better on kickoffs. Last year, it got to the point where I was happy just when he didn't kick it out of bounds and give the other team the ball at the 40-yard line, so the 35 or the 40, either one. That was an improvement, right? The opening kickoff was a touchback. He had a couple other ones. It did make me think about whether or not Andrew Boyle would slide into that role, the Washington State transfer, who might have been brought in for that reason, or maybe he's going to be a punter. I don't really know. That one, we haven't heard a ton from him since he came down from Pullman. But if Lewis can produce on kickoffs the way he did in the spring game, I would be content with that. Field goal wise, I want to see him obviously get back to the second team All Pac-12 form that he showed from a season ago. And overall, I'm super happy for the guy. He got to Oregon as a pretty highly recruited kicker, and let's call a spade a spade. As a freshman, he was bad. He was really bad, and now he is definitely not. Right, to go from really bad to I'm wanting you to strive to make a 53-yard field goal, that is a tremendous level of growth. And if he keeps working in that direction, I'll feel good with him as our kicker this year. Not a lot of situations where you're hitting a 50-plus yard field goal, but would it be something I'd like to have in the bag? Yeah, sure. So hopefully he can improve in that sense, but he missed one from, I think it was 40. He hit from 43. I think he missed from, what was it? It was going to the south end of the field. I don't remember. It was like 40, 46 or so. He hooked it to the left and looked like he had plenty of power on it. And, if he can get to that range where he's confident enough from high 40s to even low 50s, I think that can be a real weapon. We closed today's show talking just a little bit of Oregon basketball because some news came down recently with regards to next year's roster for Dana Altman and company, and that is that Rivaldo Soares is coming back. Now, we still don't have an official word, and this is why you should like and subscribe wherever you're listening to and or watching the show if you have not already, because I've got you covered with all the latest breaking news on the Ducks. We haven't heard anything officially from Will Richardson or N'Faly Dante. I know that the deadline to enter the transfer portal, at least for college football, is coming up. I believe that basketball has a similar deadline. I don't know what it is specifically, but haven't heard officially. So as of now, they're back on the team. We'll wait and see. But, Soares is interesting. This past year, he came in from the JUCO ranks, and he'd had a good JUCO career, and he never really carved out a consistent role with the Ducks. He was in when guys were in foul trouble or when there were injuries or guys were missing games. Never in a big crunch time game did you expect to see him play significant minutes. And he's got size and athleticism. He's a capable shooter. I think he can improve on his three-point shooting a little bit. So, though he hasn't carved out that specific bench role for himself just yet, he's definitely not going to be a starter on Oregon's team next year. But he could become a guy who you can count on as a 3-and-D sort of player. He hasn't done that yet, but he clearly thinks that another year in the system will give him a chance to make that happen. And if he can do it with no Eric Williams, I think that's a void that he could, potentially slide into as a guy who comes off the bench, gives you a couple buckets, brings some energy, plays hard defensively. So that's good news, I think, for the Ducks, depending on how he's able to make a role for himself and succeed this upcoming season for Oregon basketball. Plenty of more content on the Ducks coming this week. I appreciate everyone listening. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.